2021, only about a third of STEM workers were women. Although women are rapidly joining this industry, the shares of men that are majoring in these fields vastly outnumbers women, and we need more equal representation than ever. So, we wanted to highlight some of the best STEM careers that you can look into today. If you're analytical and prefer numbers and patterns, you should look into jobs as a data analyst, computer scientist, computer programmer, financial analyst, or an actuary. If you prefer cells, anatomy, and biology, you should look into roles as a geologist, epidemiologist, biologist, or even a radiologist. All the is. If you're more strategy focused and like to see projects from beginning to end, you should look into engineering, like civil or environmental engineering. And to learn more about what these jobs are, what they do, and most importantly, how much they pay, you need Indeed. Check out Indeed at the link in the description below.
I am an EMT, which in this hospital, an ER tech.
How much do you make?
I make $24 an hour.
Do you feel well compensated?
I think in healthcare, most people probably don't, but you do it because you love helping people.
Right.
That's the goal. That's what you get back at the end of the day.
What are some other pros and cons?
The cons would definitely be the craziness, just because you deal with patients from all walks of life, and sometimes you could be verbally or physically assaulted. The pros is just the end of the day, you felt like you did a great job. You did as much as you could. You helped the people. That is just also a blessing. You have to have compassion and empathy, and that just brings joy to me. That is probably the only thing that I would do for free.
How is your work-life balance? How many hours a week are you working?
So I work 2 jobs. I literally work 3 here and then 3 on an ambulance. So I don't have much of a social life. I mean, I do because I make time for it, but I work 3 days at one place and 3. So I only have 1 day off, basically.
How do you take care of yourself?
In between, self-care is very important. Just staying in bed all day on my 1 day off, or just trying to go get a massage, go get my nails and feet done.
How did you get into this? How would you advise others to get into it as well?
I've been wiping butts since I was about 14. So just being a natural nurturer, just being raised by a grandmother, I've just always been around people who take care of others. It's just been my life, and I love to do it.
I'm an environmental engineer.
How long have you been doing it?
For about 3 years.
How much do you make?
I make $80,000.
Do you feel fairly compensated?
I think so.
Did you know the salary when you applied for the job, or how'd you get the salary you have now?
Moving through the company, basically. I didn't have that salary at the beginning. It was like $20,000 less.
So did you negotiate, advocate for yourself?
It's a lot of work, a lot of research. You gotta be careful how you word stuff.
Do you think that pay transparency would have been helpful for you in that instance? Knowing
Maybe,
the
yeah, probably. So when I got my letter, actually the salary was less, but then when I started, they gave us a few thousand more. And then from there, I wasn't really progressing. And then I'm like, well, I found out you have to jump through the company or leave the company and then come back later.
What career advice would you share with others who are interested in doing what you do, or what have you learned in general?
What I've learned in general is gotta be willing to move around and also work hard and try to figure out what you really want to do. Because then if you have a strong basis, like what you want to do, then you're more valuable in the future for other companies.
I'm a nurse anesthetist.
How much do you make?
Last year I made $280.
How long have you been doing it?
2 years.
What educational background do you need to get into this?
You have to be an RN first. So I went to nursing school, and then I had to work in the ICU for at least a year.
Nice.
I worked there probably 7, and then I went to anesthesia school.
Nice. And do you like what you do overall?
Yeah, I love it. Best decision ever.
Awesome. What are the pros and cons?
The pros is the money
Yeah.
and the hours. The cons is a lot of responsibility.
Right. And how many hours a week are you working?
A lot. Anywhere from 36 to 48.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it.
I'm a NICU nurse.
How much do you make?
So I get paid hourly and I get 35 something, 35 and some change.
Okay. And are you from here?
No, I'm from New Mexico.
Great. Okay. Do you like what you do?
Yeah, I love it.
Nice. And a NICU nurse, I know what that is, but if you could explain it in one sentence, what would you say?
I take care of teeny tiny humans.
Love it. That's so important. And how's your work-life balance?
It's pretty good. The hours for this job are really good. I work 12-hour shifts, but I only have to work 3 of them a week. So check on your healthcare worker friends.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of our time taking care of other people, but sometimes it's difficult to take care of ourselves. So check on your friends that work in healthcare.
I'm a resident physician.
How long have you been doing it?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And do you mind sharing how much you make in your role?
Yeah, I make $75,000.
Wow. Do you feel well compensated?
Probably not as much for the work I'm doing now, but eventually down the road I will be.
What are the pros and cons of your role, best and worst parts?
The best parts would be working with patients and getting to learn new things every day and just all the people I get to work with. Worst parts would probably be the paperwork. Yeah. And some of the more, emotional taxing parts about working in healthcare.
How's your work-life balance?
I'd say overall pretty good at this point. Some points are better and worse, but overall I think as I expected kind of going into this field.
Any career advice that you would share with others who are interested in also being physicians, or career advice in general?
I would say I think down the road it's worth it. Just got to look big picture and know what you're getting into, though.
I'm a pharmacy technician.
How'd you get into it?
It was kind of on a whim. I just wanted to make something that was more than minimum wage.
Do you like what you do?
Yeah, I like it because I'm good at it, but it is definitely challenging.
What do you think has been a challenging part of your career so far?
Well, since the pandemic started, pharmacies have turned more like into a pharmacy plus a vaccination clinic. So our workload doubled in like the last 2 years especially.
Do you feel like you're fairly compensated?
I mean, the company I work for definitely is up there, so in that way, yes.
I am a pharmacist. I got my PharmD from University of Florida in 2019.
Love it. How much do you make?
I make over 100,000.
We love it. Do you like what you do?
I love what I do, yes.
How's your work-life balance? Heard it's not good for pharmacists.
It could be better. I think I got really lucky with this job because I only work Monday through Friday and I have weekends off.
I'm a biologist.
How long have you been doing it?
About 12 years.
How much do you make?
Cumulatively, I teach biology part-time and I'm a private environmental consultant biologist, so cumulatively about $80,000 a year.
Do you have any advice for others who might be interested in this?
Advocate for yourself, especially if you're a marginalized group, like a woman, person of color, disabled, because no one's going to help you out unless you help yourself.
I'm a certified anesthesiologist assistant.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it since 2021.
What's your educational background? Like, what do you need to get to become that?
So I completed my bachelor's about 4 years, and then I took a gap year kind of in between. I did some pre-health experiences, research, and then I got into the program, which was about a little bit over 2 years.
Nice. Okay, so about like 6 years of work. How much do you make?
Over 200,000.
Nice.
I made about 255,000 last year, a little bit over that.
That's awesome. Is that like total compensation or like base salary and other things? Do you mind breaking it out?
Yes. So that is my base salary, which my base that's my base salary plus my overtime.
Whoa, I want this job.
I mean, with some years of experience, it can get to that. But I had about 2 years of experience, and my base salary had increased from around like 175,000 to around 100, a little bit under 200,000.
Still pretty
so
good.
Really good. And then I did a lot of overtime, work hard, play hard. I was living in Florida, but my family is in New York, so I was doing a lot of travel, and in between being in New York, I would work a lot of overtime in the hospital.
Nice. And so that salary is based in Florida or New York?
Yes, based in Florida.
Florida. Do you feel well compensated?
Yes, absolutely. I love my job, and I feel like not just the compensation, but the time off that I had. It was overall an awesome package, and
Work-life balance, how is it? How many hours a week are you working?
I go back and forth. Sometimes I stick to just my regular 40 hours, and there have been weeks where I get closer to like 60 hours. It's not required. It's something that I did on my own just because I wanted.
Nice.
The paycheck's nice. I like the overtime. I kind of get bored if I'm just at home sometimes, so I'm like, I might as well be working. So I worked 40 to 60 hours maybe on some weeks. But then I still had about 8 weeks off last year, which is so nice.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Most people get like 15 days.
Yes. So I literally just try to like blast as much as I can about my profession to so many people. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share my profession.
I'm a data scientist. I work for a corporate food and beverage company. So if your corporate building has like cafeteria in it, my company in general, like your company will hire my company to do your food service. So I kind of build like predictive models to help different aspects of that food service work better.
How much do you make doing that?
I actually just got a raise last week, so now I make 100,000.
Do you feel fairly compensated?
I do now. I think relative to the market, especially in Chicago, I think it's on the lower end of what is fair for this role.
How did you get the raise?
So it's actually kind of interesting. When I started, they hired 2 data scientists right around the same time, and one of them was making more than me, and I kind of called them out a little bit, and I was like, why is this discrepancy? And they didn't give me a very clear answer, but it's like, this is kind of what we can do right now, but then give us like 6-ish months and we can renegotiate. So that's exactly what I did, and I just had that renegotiation now.
What are the pros and cons of your job, the best and worst parts?
For my company in particular, the thing I love most, I love the people, I love the culture, and I have really great work-life balance. It's definitely a learning curve. I don't don't have a degree specifically in data science. I kind of like self-taught myself into this role. So it's been a lot of learning and it's been challenging, but I really like it and I'm glad I took the challenge and went for it.
How did you self-teach? Like, did you take a certificate? How did that work for you?
My senior year of college, I kind of realized I had an interest in data science. So I took a few courses, but definitely not like a whole degree path. So I started as a data analyst and I really focused on more of the data science-y components of that job. And then I just got really lucky and a position at my company opened and I reached out to the people and yeah, I got lucky and they wanted me to move over.
Any words of advice for anyone interested in also becoming a data scientist? What have you learned that's worked for you?
I would say now start learning ChatGPT, how to integrate it into your workflows. Just knowing how to code won't be enough. You need to know how to code efficiently and that's going to be the biggest thing moving forward.
I am a registered nurse.
How long have you been doing it?
I've been a nurse for about 6 years.
How much do you make in your role?
Anywhere from like 120 to 180 plus.
Do you feel well compensated?
Yes, absolutely. Way better than bedside nursing where you're making 50 to 70 a year.
Do you like it? What are the pros and cons?
I left bedside nursing a really long time ago. I'm actually doing nurse case management now.
What are some of the roles and responsibilities, things you like, things you don't like?
So I work with work comp patients, so people that get injured on the job. The pros to it is you get to attend all of these different physicians' appointments. The cons are just dealing with some people that don't want to talk to you.
Any career advice that you would share with others who are interested in your role, or what would you share in general?
Don't ever stay committed to a hospital and go out and experience all of these different things that you guys can do with a nursing degree.
I run an infectious diseases clinical trials unit. I basically just oversee clinical research studies.
What kind of degree did you have to get into this, or certification?
I started working with the place while I was getting my master's, so I've finished my master's now.
Did they help you pay for it?
No, God no.
How much do you make at your current job?
I make about $80,000.
Do you feel fairly paid?
Not anymore, no. I took on a lot more responsibilities, but I'm in like a weird situation, so it's okay for now.
How long have you been doing it total?
I guess like 2 years.
What would you recommend to anyone who might be interested in doing what you do?
It's a lot about who you know, but just reach out to people.
I'm a data scientist.
How long have you been doing it?
Just for like a year.
Did you recently graduate, or how'd you get into it?
Yeah, I graduated like last year.
What kind of degree did you get, like, that helped you, or what kind of experience helped?
Well, actually, I originally wanted to be a lawyer, so I have a degree in English and geography, and then I minored in data science. I took a long time because I stayed in school just to do like a degree change. Technically, I don't really have the degree for it.
How did you get the job? Did you like play up your data science like minor?
I was working at my college gym, and there's a guy who would come every day, like a retired dude, and he'd always make bread and give us bread. And so one day I was telling him I needed a job, and he just found somebody that would connect me to it.
How much do you make in your current role?
I make $101,000.
Nice. Do you feel fairly compensated?
Oh yeah. Maybe a little too much. Compared to how hard, like, for example, my mom works at working at Ralph's, I get paid way too much.
We see a lot of discrepancy, like people that we feel deserve the highest usually make the lowest, like teachers, social workers and stuff, so don't feel bad. How did you know how much you were supposed to make? Was it listed in the salary? Did you negotiate?
The school that I went to, a lot of it was like tech-based, a lot of feeders into like big companies like Google and Facebook. So I already knew what technically you're supposed to do, and I also knew going into it that if I didn't want to work really hard and be a lawyer, I could go into tech and make money doing a little less. Honestly, tech is so bad, but anyways, I digress. I think we get paid way too much for, I guess, the amount of work that we do, also the amount of impact that we have in society, specifically like social media companies. And even then, it depends on where you're at. Also, some tech workers at different companies really need to unionize or they take advantage of like work visas and stuff and whatnot.
What kind of advice would you share with others based on what you've learned?
Oh, it's networking. And networking. You gotta know the right people because it isn't really about skill or merit. It's literally about who you know.
I'm an accountant at a university.
How much do you make?
In the range of 70 to 80.
How long have you been doing it?
Over 15 years.
What kind of educational background or experience did you need for the job?
So you do have to have a degree, but you have to have more work experience. So yes, I've worked there for quite a while, and I just moved up from being just a receptionist to several jobs, and then moved into that.
Do you like what you do?
I love it. Nice. You know, right now we get to work from home because of the the pandemic and stuff like that. It's a good work-life balance.
I'm a physical therapist.
Physical therapist? So cool. How long have you been doing it?
2 years.
2 years. What's your educational background?
So I had 4 years of undergrad. I went to Salisbury, go Gulls. And then I went to University of Maryland Eastern Shore for PT school, and that was a total of 3 years for a doctorate degree.
Gosh, so 7 years in school. Do you feel like the education was worth it? Like the time in school, you're happy?
I do. It definitely can be like healthcare in general can just be kind of hard, but yeah, I mean, I like it overall.
Nice.
So
And how much do you make in your role?
I make about 80,000.
80,000.
Yeah.
Do you feel well compensated?
For right now. There's definitely different avenues you can take to like try to make a little bit more, but for right now it's good.
Any pros and cons? What are the best and worst parts of your job?
Pros is definitely like I help people, I get people back to doing what they love to do, back to running, like just so that is all very rewarding. Cons, just dealing with people, you know, mental health sometimes can be a challenge when you're dealing with people that are in pain, but I mean, overall it's good and I love it and I'm so glad to be helping people.
How's your work-life balance?
It's good. I mean, I work 40 hours a week like in the office, and then sometimes I have to do some documentation at home. So roughly it's like 45, 46 hours a week.
What advice would you share with others who are interested in also being physical therapists or career advice in general that's helped you?
When you're out of school, like figure out what setting you want to work in because there's so many different ways that you can be a PT. If you want to do private practice, if you want to do home health, if you want to be outpatient, if you want to do your own thing, start your own business. So there's so many different options. So don't feel like you have to be tied down to just one setting.
I'm a nurse practitioner.
How long have you been doing it?
I've been a nurse practitioner for 8 years, and before that I was a labor and delivery nurse for 6 years.
How did you get into it? Like what educational background do you have?
Yeah, I started off like the traditional route. So I did the 4-year Bachelor of Science in nursing, and then I became a nurse, and then I went back to school for my nurse practitioner for the master's.
So total, is that like 6 years or 5 years?
It was 7 for me. Because I worked full-time while going to school part-time for my master's, but it can be 6 years.
How was that experience for you?
I think I shaved a couple years off my life. It was a little stressful, but no, I loved it. And you know, nursing is such a tight-knit community, so I have my nursing friends that I'm still cool with, so yeah.
How much do you make?
Well, it varies. So my base salary is $144. Okay. And then with bonuses, I can make, so like last year I made over $200,000. Wow. The year before that was more like $180. Yeah. So usually bonuses can be anywhere from $20,000 to $100,000.
Do you have any like advice or anything you would share for someone who wants to be in your position?
Yeah, if you're a nurse and you're thinking about becoming a nurse practitioner, I would probably recommend shadowing a nurse practitioner, doing a couple shadow days just to see if it's for you, because I mean, there's just so many opportunities in nursing. Like you can be an inventor, a writer, you can do research, you can be a school nurse, a flight nurse, a travel nurse. I mean, there's so many options. Leadership, management, business. So, you know, a lot of people think being a nurse practitioner is the only route, but there's so many options. So I would say shadow a nurse practitioner and see if it's for you.
What worked for you? Anything, like any success stories, something that worked that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would say certainly negotiating my salary. Okay. Sounds corny and cheesy, but you really won't get it unless you ask. So I just encourage nurse practitioners to ask and keep asking and negotiate your salary, your compensation package, and make sure that you make it your dream job. Things that you need to make your work-life balance better and for you to actually enjoy your job.
What are the pros and cons of your job?
Pros, it sounds corny, but we really do help people. I'm in healthcare and I really did do it to make a difference. So we help people. Pros, we get paid well. Good work-life balance. Yeah, you can make your schedule. And then again, there's just so many options of what you can do. I work in women's health, but you can do anything.
How many hours a week are you working?
I probably put in around 40-ish hours a week, but I do a lot of them from home. So I do telehealth, I can chart at home, and I do see patients in the office a few days a week. If you're wondering, come follow me and I'll help you out.
I'm a staff scientist.
If you could describe what you do in one sentence, what would you say?
I conduct experiments and do research to attempt to identify genetic variants in humans that are associated with disease.
How much do you make for that?
Currently about $105,000.
Do you feel fairly compensated?
I think so.
What are the pros and cons of your job, the best and worst parts?
Best parts is that it's a really great environment in terms of who I'm working with. Very collaborative environment. Great. Get to teach students, kind of set my own hours, work at your own pace. So it's great in that respect. Cons. If I were doing very similar type of job in industry, I'd be making a lot more money.
What pieces of advice would you have for anyone interested in doing what you do?
The educational proportion of it takes a really long time, so understand that it's a really long process, but for the most part, it's very worth it.
My total comp is $275,000 a year, and I work 100% remote. My name's Simone. I work as a senior federal technical account manager at a cybersecurity GovTech startup. I help all of our government customers install our cybersecurity product, make sure they're getting a lot of value from it, and then just make sure their systems are secure.
Can you break out the total comp based on like base and stocks and all that stuff?
So base salary is $175, so nice base, and then my bonuses is about $30,000 a year, and then the rest of that is all stocks. We're a pre-IPO company.
What got you interested in this field?
I grew up playing basketball, and I basically got into the field because I needed something to do outside of basketball, and I was trying to honestly figure out a way to like not have to go to my regular classes. So in our district, they actually had a vocational school. So you could go there, you could learn tech, you could do welding, you could do nursing. So I ended up doing tech, and I got my CompTIA A+ certification at 16. I got my computer science degree, did multiple internships while I was there, and that really helped me get my first job with Raytheon.
What advice do you have for others who want to get involved in this?
The best advice is just to get started and then focus on the certifications that actually get you a skill. I have the CompTIA A+, I have the CompTIA Security Plus, and I have the AWS Cloud Certified Practitioner Cert. For your career, like what's going to help you out the most is once you get your foot in the door, is really focus on job hopping.
I'm a medical student.
How much do you make?
I'm actually paying $70K a year to go to medical school right now. So we have 4 years of school. I'm about to finish my first year of medical school and just have 3 more years to go.
Do you feel like you should be getting paid right now?
Well, right now we're in preclinical, so we're taking courses. So that kind of seems similar and reminiscent of undergraduate, but it's hard to say because 3rd or 4th year is when we're actually in the hospital and we're actually rounding and seeing patients and interviewing them. Regardless, I think $70K is too much.
What's the path forward?
We finish school and then we have residency, which can be 3 to 8 years depending on what path you choose, and that is interesting in and of itself because depending where you go for residency, you can get a livable wage or a wage that is minimum wage for working 80 hours, 90 hours a week.
How's your work-life balance?
I think the work-life balance is the real issue as well, and that goes hand in hand with payment. So not only is it really important for institutions like GW to have unions, which they just voted to support one, which is great. So not only are unions important for pay, but also for hours. Mental health as well. You see a lot of really troubling issues that just come along with healthcare. There's so much that needs to be addressed in that. It's hard to just point out one without encompassing everything else as well.